Right now, in 8 Arizona cities, residents are paying more per gallon for tap water than they pay for gasoline. Let that sink in. The same water you use to brush your teeth costs more than the fuel that powers your car. And it's not getting better. It's getting worse. At number 8, we have Flagstaff, sitting at 7,000 feet in the pine forests of northern Arizona. The city faces a water nightmare that most residents never see coming. The high elevation alone makes every gallon an expensive engineering challenge. Flagstaff relies on groundwater from deep aquifers and surface water from the Colorado River. Both sources require massive pumping infrastructure. Moving water uphill to 7,000 feet burns electricity like a furnace, and those energy costs show up on every water bill. The city serves 75,000 residents plus thousands of Northern Arizona University students. All of them depend on an aging pipe system that leaks precious water through old joints and connections. Every lost gallon still costs money to pump and treat. Flagstaff's water utility has spent millions on conservation programs and infrastructure upgrades. Every improvement gets funded through rate increases that hit customers hard. Residents now pay more per gallon than they spend on gasoline, while being lectured to use less water. The pine forest setting feels like paradise until the first water bill arrives. New residents experience sticker shock when they discover that filling a bathtub costs more than filling a gas tank. The elevation premium is real, and it never goes away. Municipal projections show rates climbing for years to come. The combination of high elevation, aging pipes, and limited sources creates a permanent cost crisis. Living among the pines means accepting water bills that would seem absurd anywhere else. Tourism brings thousands to experience Flagstaff's natural beauty, but locals shoulder the infrastructure burden. Every hotel shower and restaurant sink pulls from the same strained system. Visitors enjoy the scenery, while residents pay the price for maintaining it. Conservation efforts have reduced how much water each person uses, but total costs keep rising anyway. The utility chases infrastructure needs that never end. Flagstaff residents face a future where water becomes increasingly unaffordable, regardless of how carefully they conserve. Coming in at number 7 is Sedona, the Red Rock paradise, where stunning landscapes hide brutal water realities. This tourism-dependent city draws from Oak Creek and underground aquifers with limited capacity to meet demand from residents and millions of annual visitors. The same geology that creates Sedona's famous rock formations also complicates water infrastructure. Pipes must snake through rocky terrain that resists every effort to expand or repair the system. Installation costs are astronomical, and those expenses get billed to customers. Water scarcity concerns have forced the city into tiered pricing that penalizes high usage. Use more than your baseline and the rates skyrocket. The system pushes per-gallon costs well above what drivers pay at gas stations. Sedona's affluent population has historically accepted premium prices without much complaint. Wealthy retirees and vacation homeowners can afford the rates. But recent increases have finally sparked debates about whether growth can continue when water costs this much. The tourism economy creates wild swings in demand. Summer months bring floods of visitors who shower, swim, and water lawns at hotels and resorts. The infrastructure must handle peak loads, even though average daily use stays much lower. Oak Creek provides surface water, but the supply is finite. Underground aquifers offer backup, but pumping from depth requires energy that translates to higher bills. Sedona has no cheap water source, and no relief coming. City planners face impossible choices between restricting growth or expanding infrastructure at costs that would double current rates. Either path leads to pain. Sedona's water crisis will only deepen as climate patterns shift and demand continues growing. The Red Rocks attract photographers and tourists from around the world. What they don't see is the financial strain on local families who pay gasoline prices just to wash dishes. Paradise has a price tag measured in every gallon. At number 6 we find Prescott, a historic mountain town where charm comes with shocking water bills. The city depends entirely on groundwater from the Big Chino and Little Chino aquifers. There are no surface water backups or alternative sources. Decades of pumping have lowered water tables across both aquifers. Wells that once hit water at reasonable depths now must drill hundreds of feet deeper. More powerful pumps consume massive amounts of electricity to bring that water to the surface. Prescott's water utility has implemented aggressive conservation measures and rate structures designed to discourage waste. The result is some of the state's highest per-gallon costs. Residents pay premium rates while being told their usage threatens future supplies. The city's large retiree population creates tension between maintaining quality of life and preserving groundwater for future generations. Older residents want green lawns and full swimming pools. Younger families worry about aquifers running dry before their kids grow up. Every gallon pumped from the Big Chino or Little Chino aquifers represents water that won't be there tomorrow. The math is simple and terrifying. Prescott is slowly draining its only water source with no plan for what happens when the wells go dry. Municipal water managers talk about conservation and efficiency, but the real conversation is about managed decline. Prescott cannot sustain current population levels on groundwater alone. Something has to give, and that something will be measured in families forced to leave. New development faces intense scrutiny, because every new home means more demand on shrinking aquifers. Builders complain about restrictions. Environmental groups demand total building moratoriums. Meanwhile, water bills keep climbing as the utility tries to fund infrastructure for a crisis it cannot solve. Prescott's historic downtown and beautiful setting attract steady streams of new residents fleeing Phoenix heat. They arrive dreaming of mountain living and discover water bills that exceed their mortgage escrow payments. The sticker shock is real, and the costs never decrease. At number 5 sits Sierra Vista, located in southeastern Arizona near Fort Huachuca. This city faces a water crisis that makes gasoline look cheap by comparison. The entire municipal supply comes from the Sierra Vista subwatershed. That underground water source has been in decline for decades due to agricultural pumping and population growth. Water tables drop measurably every year. The presence of the military base adds complexity, as federal and local managers clash over allocation and conservation priorities. Recent studies show potential impacts on the nearby San Pedro River, one of the Southwest's most important riparian corridors. Environmental regulations may soon force Sierra Vista to reduce pumping, which would require finding alternative sources at enormous cost. The city has explored potential pipelines from the Colorado River, hundreds of miles away. The infrastructure costs for such a project would be staggering. Those expenses would get passed directly to consumers through water bills that already shock newcomers. Fort Huachuca's water needs compete with civilian demand. The military has federal priority rights but also conservation mandates. The resulting tension creates uncertainty about how much water Sierra Vista can count on for future growth. Agricultural users historically pumped the most water from the subwatershed. Recent restrictions have reduced farming demand, but the aquifer continues declining. Decades of overuse cannot be reversed quickly. Sierra Vista residents pay for past sins through current rate increases. City officials project water costs will double within 5 years as infrastructure needs collide with declining supplies. Residents already paying more than gasoline prices will see bills climb even higher. The question isn't whether rates increase, but how much families can endure. Sierra Vista's economy depends on Fort Huachuca, which means the city cannot simply stop growing. Military families need housing and services. But every new resident accelerates aquifer decline and pushes the crisis closer to a breaking point that no one wants to acknowledge. Number 4 brings us to Payson, a mountain town in the Mogollon Rim country. The city depends on a mix of surface water from C.C. Cragen Reservoir and groundwater wells. Neither source comes cheap or easy. Payson's remote location means water treatment and distribution require significant infrastructure spread across a relatively small customer base. Fewer people means higher per capita costs. The town cannot achieve economies of scale that larger cities enjoy. Explosive growth from Phoenix area refugees seeking cooler temperatures has strained existing water systems beyond design capacity. Infrastructure built for 10,000 people now serves twice that many. The pipes, pumps, and treatment plants struggle to keep up. Drought conditions have repeatedly reduced C.C. Cragen Reservoir levels, forcing greater reliance on expensive groundwater pumping. Surface water is cheap when available, but droughts make it unreliable. Groundwater provides backup at premium cost. The combination of limited supply, aging infrastructure, and growing demand has created a perfect storm of high water costs. Payson residents pay rates that translate to $6 or $7 per gallon. Gasoline at $3.50 seems like a bargain. City planners approve subdivisions and commercial development without fully accounting for water infrastructure costs. Growth was supposed to bring economies of scale. Instead, it brought strain and system failures that require expensive emergency repairs funded through rate increases. Payson's appeal as a summer retreat destination means seasonal population swings. The system must handle peak demand during hot months when Phoenix residents flee to cooler elevations. Infrastructure size for peak loads sits underutilized the rest of the year. Water managers talk about sustainability, but the numbers tell a different story. Current usage exceeds reliable supply during drought years. Payson faces choices between restricting growth or gambling on wet years that may never come again. At number 3, we have Bisbee, the historic mining town clinging to steep hillsides in the Mule Mountains. Water has always been precious and expensive here. The city's water system dates to its copper mining heyday. Bisbee imports water from springs and wells in surrounding mountains, then treats and pumps it uphill to neighborhoods perched at various elevations. Every gallon fights gravity from source to faucet. The energy costs are brutal and constant. The small population base of roughly 5,000 residents means infrastructure costs are divided among fewer customers. Major repairs or system upgrades hit each household hard. There's no way to spread the pain across enough people to make it bearable. Water loss through the antiquated pipe system compounds every problem. Leaks spring up constantly in pipes that were never designed to last this long. The city loses gallons that were already expensive to pump and treat, then must replace them at the same cost. Bisbee's limited ability to invest in modern efficiency upgrades keeps it trapped in a cycle of high costs. The town cannot afford major overhauls. Band-aid repairs keep the system limping along while rates climb to cover emergency fixes. Tourism provides some economic base, but not enough to offset water infrastructure needs. Visitors explore historic mining sites and quirky downtown shops. They don't see the financial strain on residents who pay some of Arizona's highest water rates. The steep terrain makes every aspect of water service more difficult and expensive. Locating leaks requires crews to access hillsides that resist easy movement. Repairs demand specialized equipment. Simple maintenance becomes complex operations that drain municipal budgets. Bisbee residents have accepted high costs as the price of living in a unique historic setting, but recent rate increases have tested that acceptance. When water bills exceed mortgage payments, even dedicated locals start questioning whether they can afford to stay. Number 2 takes us to Show Low in the White Mountains of eastern Arizona. Residents here pay a premium for every drop they use. The city relies on groundwater from the confined aquifer beneath the Colorado Plateau. Deep wells and powerful pumps are required to bring water to the surface from the plateau aquifer. The drilling and pumping costs are substantial. Show Low's explosive growth as a summer retreat for Phoenix residents has overwhelmed the original water infrastructure. The city's high elevation means significant energy costs for water treatment and distribution. Freezing winter temperatures require additional infrastructure protection that warm climate cities never face. Pipes must be buried deeper and insulated better, all at extra expense. Recent rate increases to fund a new water treatment plant have pushed costs to levels that exceed gasoline prices by substantial margins. The facility was necessary but expensive. Customers will be paying for it through their bills for decades. Show Low attracted retirees and vacation homeowners who wanted mountain living without Phoenix heat. They built homes expecting affordable utilities. Instead, they discovered water bills that rival or exceed their electricity costs, even in winter. The confined aquifer beneath the plateau has limits that geologists are still mapping. Nobody knows for certain how much water remains or how long it can sustain current pumping rates. Show Low is growing on faith that the water will last. Municipal planners approve subdivisions based on optimistic aquifer assessments. Recent studies suggest those assessments may have been too generous. If the aquifer depletes faster than projected, Show Low faces a crisis that would make current high rates seem quaint. The tourism and recreation economy depends on continued growth. More visitors mean more restaurants, hotels, and services. But every new business increases water demand on an aquifer that may already be overcommitted. Show Low is caught between economic needs and physical limits. At number 1 sits Jerome, perched impossibly on the slopes of Mingus Mountain. This former copper mining town holds the distinction of having Arizona's most expensive water. The elevation ranges from 5,000 to 5,400 feet on a 30-degree slope. Every gallon must be pumped uphill through a complex network of pipes fighting gravity at every turn. The energy required is staggering. Jerome's tiny population of around 450 residents shoulders the entire cost of maintaining infrastructure designed for thousands of miners. The town purchases treated water from nearby Prescott Valley, then must pump it up the mountain at enormous energy cost. The vertical climb and steep grade require pumping stations that consume electricity constantly. There is no cheap way to move water up Mingus Mountain. Leaks in the aging system are difficult to locate and repair on steep terrain. Crews need specialized equipment just to access pipe sections. Simple repairs become major operations. Water loss through leaks was already expensive to pump from the valley below. Jerome's infrastructure was built when thousands of miners worked the copper deposits. The system's size for that population now serves a fraction of the residents. Fixed costs remain high, while the customer base shrunk, creating per capita rates that defy belief. Residents pay rates that make filling a bathtub more expensive than filling a gas tank. Water bills routinely exceed several $100s monthly for modest usage. Living on Mingus Mountain means accepting costs that would be unthinkable in valley cities. Tourism provides economic activity, but doesn't offset infrastructure costs borne by residents. Visitors explore historic buildings and enjoy mountain views. Local families struggle with utility bills that consume significant portions of their income. Jerome's population stays small, partly because water costs drive away potential residents. The town cannot grow without infrastructure investment it cannot afford. The result is a community frozen in time, sustained by tourism, but unable to expand beyond its current limitations. The broader lesson extends beyond Arizona. Communities across the American West face similar challenges as aquifers decline and infrastructure ages. What's happening in Jerome and Show Low and Sierra Vista is a preview of what's coming elsewhere. Water more expensive than gasoline isn't a headline designed to shock. It's the daily reality for thousands of Arizonans who made the mistake of building lives in places where every drop must be fought for. The meter runs constantly, and the bills never stop climbing.